because, you know,
okay, good.
The rest of us have to do a show.
Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, my mic is on.
Okay. I will not say what I was going to say then. About the place that I
It's okay.
cannot mention that I work at.
Yeah, I imagine.
Which is not Griffith. Griffith loves the fact that I talk about them.
Perfect.
Yeah, they do.
And we love Griffith in kind, so.
Yay, Griffith.
Amazeballs. There you go. Coolio.
Jared's the new bouncer at the Illuminati Club.
Jared's the new bouncer at the Illuminati Club. Yeah, you're good. Thank you. I'm going to leave all your stuff here. You have batteries and everything. Copy?
Copy.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm
Missed
so
you.
sorry I'm like in and out today. So.
Could be worse. Oi. Welcome to the show. That's just what happens here.
Okay, my cat's toy is right outside the door and I can hear it, so I'm going to go move it away from the door.
Sure, we can't hear it if that's any consolation, but if it bothers you,
Well,
absolutely.
she stopped for a bit, but she's going to keep up.
No worries. I love it. We've had many an animal interrupt an episode. And then, not that the person speaking is ever necessarily not entertaining enough or not interesting enough, but for sure an animal. The whole chat room goes, "Oh, did you see the dog?
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you think that is?" Like all of the times.
Always.
Always. Right? Exactly. Wow, to wicked. Wow, to wicked.
Wow, too wicked.
Yes, not everybody owns a laptop in the world. It's kind of this weird thing that happens. Yeah, so Twickett is asking if the new MacBook is micro air.
That is amazing technology. It's super thin.
It is. It's very thin.
It's paper thin.
Ah.
It's the Mac paper.
Oh.
You haven't heard of it yet.
You haven't heard of it.
When does that come out? I can't wait to stand in line.
Oh, I have a slightly funny, relatively relevant story. So the very first, I know, the very first iPhone that came out, Ben and I at the time lived at Minnesota, and we went to the Mall of America because that was the only Apple store at the time, and which was also really great because we get to line up inside, and in Minnesota, if you know Minnesota, it's winter every day, and we get to line up inside, and we were there, of course, hours beforehand, lining up with everybody else, and there was like hundreds of people ahead of us, so it wasn't we weren't the only ones there, but there were mall walkers, people walking around in the mall, because the mall is one side is a quarter mile, so all the way around is 1 mile, which is fantastic, particularly for mall walkers. It's a great place for that, and people would walk by and they would see this huge line and they were confused, and so people then sometimes would ask and they say, "Hey, what are you in line for?" Now, if you remember, the very first iPhone is like almost a decade old, right?
I think
it's something like that.
2007.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
So 2007. So think about 2007. Just for a moment. I know some of you were like children, so just pretend.
I was just starting college.
But, so 2007, right? And people were like, "Hey, what are you in line for?" And we got sick of answering the same question because it sounds dumb to say, "Hey, a computer company is making a phone," because they just didn't understand that.
Yep.
So we started saying things like, "The next Star Wars movie."
Yep.
Which is funny for a number of reasons, because at the time, there were no new Star Wars movies. So we thought, ha-ha, and people believed us, ha-ha, and then there were new Star Wars movies. And so, like,
Jared, turn the TV on.
as far as I'm concerned, we started that,
You got it. Working on it.
in case anybody cares.
Wow.
There's the
Makes me
power.
wonder how many people like stood in line for a while until they realized it wasn't for Star Wars.
Thankfully at that time, particularly at least at the Mall of America, the movie theater was on the 3rd floor and the Apple store was on the 1st
Where do
floor.
these turn on at?
Just push
The
push
line
the
was
knob
really
on the
long.
back.
You're in the wrong place.
Yeah, but the line was really long.
But that phenomenon of lining
It was like
started with the iPhone.
4.5 miles long
Oh, cool.
inside.
Only one works.
Nice. Well, I turned both of them on, even though only one works.
Yeah, there's no power on the second one, so you didn't actually turn it on.
Okay, well, I went ahead and did it anyhow.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it?
Show me.
All right.
Facial.
I assume we're ready?
I think we're ready.
All
Everybody
right.
good?
And really quickly,
Yes.
Miss Holly, I assume you watched the show, and I assume this was in an email, but just in case you've ignored all of those cues, we're going to go ahead and do news first. It's usually 15 to 20 minutes, unless Mike decides to go long. Just kidding, Mike. It's usually my fault, to be honest. So 15 to 20 minutes or so, we have a very short break, and then you'll be on with Jared. And that goes as long as that goes.
Yes.
Pretty much as long as you find us interesting and we feel the same. And then at that point, you can feel free to hang up. That's totally fine. What we do then is take another short break, and then we do comments and questions from last week's show in case there was anything interesting there. If you guys happen to go really, really long, we can go ahead and skip comments. But just that's usually the flow of the show. Again, once we're done with your segment, if you like, you can totally hang up. Is that still a true statement, Dutta? We have no way to hang up on Miss Holly?
Yeah, we do, but I try not to be so rude.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just we won't have a chance to necessarily say goodbye per se, other than us muting all of that. If you like to hang out, you totally can. We have an after show kind of show, very, very casual. Sometimes we talk about Disney things, talk about Star Wars things, which now are the same thing. But we don't always. So if you have a time commitment, please feel free to just sort of go, neat, thanks.
I don't have a time commitment, so that's cool.
Lovely. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't want you to think like, oh, you're going to talk any second, and if you have to go to the bathroom, you can't. You have some time to do that. Cool?
I'm good.
Awesome.
Holly, can you tell me what you had for breakfast, please?
Crab cakes.
Can you tell me
First of all, jealous, but secondly, he's trying to do a sound check. So if you could just extend that a little bit is what he's asking.
Can I get a quick short story about Star Wars?
Short story? Like,
Where did you get the posters that are behind you?
okay. Those I got from Etsy.
Okay. Very cool.
It doesn't matter what you talk about anything.
Can you recite the opening crawl to Star Wars 4?
Yeah, I have the rug right here.
Let me read it off my floor.
It is a period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil galactic empire. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents... Hold on. Get into the bottom of it
We
here.
get that, or are you gonna keep bringing?
No, I need to see your mouth while I do it.
Oh, you want to?
Okay.
I'm adjusting audio delay.
Okay.
All right.
Princess Leia races home aboard her starship,
She's starting.
custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. See, can you see the rug? I don't know. It's right there.
By the way, are we
This
recording?
show has already gone off the rails. No, we're not recording yet.
Oh, yeah. Are we recording?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Can you push the button?
I think I can.
Just the record button.
I haven't done this in a really long time.
I'll deal with that later.
I have a little book I can read. I don't know, Princess Leia book.
Yes, read that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there lived a young princess named Leia. Princess Leia was a leader of the Rebel Alliance, a group of freedom fighters battling the evil galactic empire.
Is it on that piece?
Princess Leia was carrying the stolen plans for the Empire's giant battle station, the Death Star, when her spaceship was attacked by an Imperial Star Destroyer. Afraid that the Empire would recover the Death Star plans, Leia hid them inside a little droid named R2-D2. R2-D2 and his droid friend C-3PO flew off in an escape pod with a message from Leia asking for help. Leia was taken prisoner by one of the Empire's most evil leaders, Darth Vader, but Leia was very brave. She refused to tell him anything. So Vader had the princess locked up in a cell on the Death Star. Luckily for Leia, the little droid, R2-D2, delivered her message for help. And soon a young man disguised as a stormtrooper opened her cell door. "I'm Luke Skywalker," he said. "I'm here to rescue you." Is that good enough?
Keep going, please.
Okay. Luke had arrived with a pilot named Han Solo and a big Wookiee named Chewbacca. Together they tried to make their way back to Han's ship. But the princess and her rescuers were stopped by stormtroopers. "This is some rescue," Leia complained. Didn't you have a plan for getting out? The princess took charge, and with Luke's blaster rifle, she led the way. After battles with stormtroopers and many close calls, the heroes made it to Han's ship and zoomed away from the Death Star. Using the plans that Princess Leia had hidden in R2-D2, the rebels destroyed the Death Star. There was a huge celebration, and Leia presented the medals to Luke and Han for their help in winning the great victory.
Cool, thank you.
Dada,
Yes.
I found the record button, which doesn't say record, so that was confusing. But secondly, there's only one drive. Does that matter?
Yes, is there a red thing going around?
Yes, but
That's
only
all
on the
I need.
one drive.
That's all I need.
Copy. Cool. Then we should be good.
Let's start the show.
Showing things. Yeah.
Yeah, yay, red,
All right,
leather,
everybody?
yellow leather.
Sure. I don't know how any of us can be any more ready.
Let's do the thing.
Except that that's not my name. There we go. Perfect. Now the door's closed. Somebody tell Jared to sit down and shut up. Yeah, I noticed. Oh, for the love. I swear we're professionals. Welcome to the conversation. I promise you are a part of this. My name is Carrie Ann, and I will be your segment. Man, one more time, if that's okay. Good gods. It's the segment word. And I wrote this script. I'm sorry, Dada.
I don't care. Okay.
Yep. Welcome to the conversation. I am Carrie Ann, and I will be your host in this first segment of
Okay.
Welcome to the conversation. My name is Carrie Ann, and I will be your host in this first segment of the show. I have with me today Sarah, our resident newbie. I promise you will love her as much as we do. I also have Mike, our rocket specialist, and a Dada behind us producing the show, and maybe teaching somebody else as well. Now, today in news, Sarah, what do we have?
Clever words about Gaia.
And Bridenstine is officially the new NASA administrator.
Oh my goodness. And later on, we do have a Jared who's going to be conducting an interview with one absolute space girl, Holly Griffith. And of course, we take a look back at your questions and comments from last week's show in our third segment, but this is tomorrow, Orbit 11.17.
Good morning. How's everything up in the sky?
Now, I want to make sure that I give a huge thank you to our Escape Velocity citizens. These are the people who have given us $10 or more for each episode on Patreon, or $30 a month on each month, I guess, on makersupport.com. They, of course, get their name in the show. And honestly, if I read all of these things, it's going to take me about 26 seconds, even though I speak very quickly. They also get worldwide shipping in our Tomorrow Swag store, and honestly, so very much more. If you are interested in becoming a citizen of tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO or makersupport.com/TMRO. Oh boy, I bet you missed me. I know I missed you guys, so I'm very happy to be back. I'm actually not even on my Apple box because Miss Sarah here is of a reasonable height and size. So, but we first want to make sure, on top of that, that
I'm
we
a hologram. My height is adjustable.
Yeah, which is fantastic. It's so good. It's sort of like dimming or turning up the brightness. We had some launches since last I was on in this last week. So, Mike, tell me what's been going on. What have I missed?
Well, the first launch that happened over this past week is actually a really cool one. This was a Sentinel launch, which was a Earth observation satellite, which launched on a Russian Rokot launch.
I love the Rokot launch because it looks like rockets.
It's a rocket named Rokot.
Right, exactly. That's like one of my favorite things. So when did this launch go on?
So this launch occurred on Wednesday, which was April 25th at 17:57 Coordinated Universal Time, and launched from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome in northeast Russia. So, excuse me. Let's check out the footage of that. Yeah. As I said, the payload was the Sentinel-3B spacecraft, which is the 7th satellite in the Copernicus Earth Observations Fleet, which is a network of environmental observations satellites that are funded by the European Union in partnership with the European Space Agency. Now, the Rokot's lower 2 stages were taken from Russia's stockpile of decommissioned ICBMs, specifically the UR-100N, also known as the RS-18, or more famously known as the SS-19 Stiletto ballistic missile. And it was originally built to carry nuclear warheads, although the missile stages were repurposed for satellite launches, and also included a Breeze KM upper stage, which does not include one of those donut-shaped drop tanks like they have on Proton flights. And with that Breeze upper stage, that completes the Rokot satellite booster. Now, the Breeze KM upper stage burned for more than 9 minutes to reach a preliminary elliptical parking orbit, and then reignited around 1912 Coordinated Universal Time for about 30 seconds to circularize its orbit at an altitude of approximately 800 kilometers. And the satellite itself, the Sentinel-3B satellite, which is built by Thales Alenia Space, deployed from the Breeze KM stage soon after the rocket's second firing. And engineers received telemetry from the spacecraft shortly thereafter. Now, the Copernicus fleet is intended to provide data on the planet's oceans, land surfaces, and atmosphere with really unprecedented rapidity to scientists, policymakers, businesses, security officials, and the public. And all of that data is released to the public for free. So that's a really cool program,
Yeah.
although... never mind. I was about to bring up the whole Brexit thing, but we can talk about it another day.
Oh, yeah, that's a much longer conversation, I think.
Yeah. I really like this particular rocket, though. We don't see these launches very often, so that was really cool to see. And also high-definition footage, since ESA was involved with that. So
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Always the higher def footage is always just way more fun, I think, in general. But there was another launch that I know was kind of going on. I don't even know if we have any footage of this one in particular, given that it's a Chinese launch. So why don't you go ahead and tell me more about that?
Thankfully, we were able to get some footage of this. And I think the reason is because it was launching some commercial satellites for a Chinese aerospace company. So that's probably why there was just ever so slightly more coverage than usual. And this launch of 5 satellites occurred on Thursday, which was April 26th. So I think that we should have the footage of that. Let's check it out. Now, as I said, this was the launch of a Long March 11 booster, and the launch occurred at 4:42 Coordinated Universal Time from the Jiuquan Launch Center in northwestern China's Gobi Desert. So there's some cool BFI footage there. But in any case, the 5 satellites were for Zhuhai Orbital Aerospace, and the constellation of satellites are known as Zhuhai 1. And the 5 commercial remote sensing satellites are going to survey natural resources, cities, crops and forests, and other environmental features. And they aim to deploy about 34 video, hyperspectral, and radar imaging craft over the next few years. Now, the satellite itself, or rather the rocket, is a solid-fueled 4-stage rocket. And after the launch, the U.S. military released orbital tracking data that indicated that they were launched into an orbit around 500 kilometers above Earth, inclined about 97 degrees to the equator. So that was a really cool launch. It was the 4th launch ever of the Long March 11 rocket, and the 12th launch overall for China for this year.
Nice.
Very cool to
Nice.
see that and get just a tiny little bit more footage than they've been publishing so
No
far this
kidding.
year.
It's funny. Now I know it's really early in the morning over in Australia, but Mini Stoach said for a second I thought that was real footage. I did too. I was like, man, they got a drone really that's really stable up there. But this is oh goodness, that's just kind of what happens. Now you mentioned, and I'm going to put you on the spot here because I don't know if you happen to know this, but you mentioned that this is the 4th flight for the Long March 11 and the 12th space launch from China for this year. How are they keeping up with other launch providers around the world this year so far? Do you know?
Well, China as a whole is pretty much surpassing everyone this year except for SpaceX, which even though I guess you could count that they have they're pretty much neck and neck because SpaceX has done what 10 launches so far this year. So I might be incorrect on that because it seems like so many have happened. But
right.
man, compared to all the other companies, including international, including Ariane Space and International Launch Services, China is definitely kicking, or rather beating everyone else in number of launches so far this year. But with SpaceX and United Launch Alliance combined, yeah, the United States is still barely leading. So
Nice.
we keep that up.
Yeah, no kidding, right? All right, awesome. I know we kind of like to have a little bit of a count going, and I like I said, I know I put you on the spot, but maybe a little bit later on in the year we can start to have a maybe not necessarily roundtable, but an update, if you will, about how all the different launch providers are doing. I think that would be fun.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So now we are transitioning to news, and we have a Miss Sarah.
Hello.
And this is my favorite part because your first story on
Yes.
your first show.
Oh, yes. It totally suits me, so
This is perfect.
all right. I'm going to try to adult through this.
No,
I'm going to
no,
fail
no.
so bad.
I'm just going to say that, so, Sarah, the way that we got you, the way that we found you
yes.
was through one Jared Head.
Yes.
And those of you who know Jared, we should not be even remotely surprised that this might be Sarah's first story. So, Sarah, I will just go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay, so Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he has said that if you're over the age of 8, you must pronounce the name of the 7th planet, Uranus. And if you want to be really pompous, Uranus.
Ooh, Uranus.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
But
I
for
like
this
it.
story, it is totally Uranus.
Uranus. Come on.
So, we have confirmed Uranus smells like farts.
Oh, wow. I mean, yeah.
All right. So,
What do we mean by that?
okay, using the NIFS instrument, which stands for Near Infrared Integral Field Spectrometer.
Of course it does.
Of course it does. On the Gemini telescope on Mauna Kea. The Gemini is a twin telescope, one in Hawaii, one in Chile. They used the Hawaii telescope, and the original instrument was designed, or initially, the instrument was intended to study the explosive environments around black holes.
All right.
Apropos, they turned it on Uranus, and they found another explosive environment where
what you
it's
did there.
full of hydrogen sulfide,
Nice.
which is the compound that makes human farts smell like rotten eggs.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
That's awesome, though.
it is.
Like, that's good to know. Like,
It is, and the better we can pin down the composition of the gas giants, their atmospheres, the better we can model early solar system and the formation of the planets and figure out the differentiation as the planetary disk was coalescing into planets.
see, now, when I think of Uranus, I don't necessarily think of it as being a gas giant. Is that classified as a gas giant planet?
It is at
Yeah.
the moment. There are when you start doing the exoplanets, they break them down into mini Neptunes and
Right.
super Uranuses and.
I like how everything's
Okay.
based off of our galaxy because, you know, that's really what
Right?
matters.
It is
that's
our
it.
system, and we are the most
Still
important.
very solar.
Obviously. Yeah, right.
Did we move past the heliocentrism? But
No, that's really fascinating, though. So other than it smells like farts, is there anything else that this can tell us per se? Yep. I mean, that's just where we are right now.
well, it does tell us that Uranus and Neptune have significantly different compositions, at least in the upper atmosphere, from Jupiter and Saturn,
Interesting.
which does imply banding in the planetary disk.
Oh, okay. So that Jupiter and Saturn are more alike than Uranus and Neptune, but Uranus and Neptune are more like to each other. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Cool. Nice. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there more?
That was it.
Awesome. Perfect. Look, we all learned something today, you guys.
Yay!
Mike, did you have any questions? I definitely want
I don't think so, although I'm going to insist that I continue to pronounce it Uranos. So,
Uranos.
Oh, all right.
Well, Mike is our pronunciation guide, so
Gotcha.
to be fair, yeah.
I'm just being a snob about that one in particular. All the rest are just...
Well, now that we're done with the story, it can stop being Uranus.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Mr. Mike, on a slightly more serious note, because I know that's a little bit more how you go, we have a new sworn-in NASA administrator. What's going on over there?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. After a really long battle, the representative from Oklahoma, Jim Bridenstine, resigned on Monday, April 23rd, and was sworn in as the new NASA administrator. He was sworn in by, as the 13th administrator by Vice President Mike Pence, and who is also the chairman of the recently revitalized National Space Council. And wow, what an event this has finally been to get up to this. I mean, joining the ceremony were Kellyanne Conway, Ted Cruz, and also the new NASA Chief Financial Officer from Arizona, Jeff DeWitt. And with Bridenstine, he was elected first as to represent Oklahoma's first congressional district in 2012, and he also served on the House Armed Service Committee, as well as the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. And he is the first politician to be named NASA administrator, despite his lack of professional space experience and technical education, which has prompted a lot of criticism from Democrats. He's also been criticized for having really strong opinions questioning humans' contributions to climate change, which has put him at odds with a lot of different NASA scientists. However, he was nominated by President Trump to lead the space agency last September and was finally confirmed by a one single vote on Thursday, April 19th. And his confirmation was definitely one of the most contentious in NASA's history. But Bridenstine takes over from NASA from outgoing acting administrator Robert Lightfoot, who had a really awesome career as an engineer and manager at NASA, who ran the civilian space agency after the previous administrator, former shuttle commander Charles Bolden, retired in the wake of the presidential election. Bridenstine himself is a former Navy U.S. pilot, and he majored in economics, psychology, and business at Rice University, and also holds an MBA from Cornell University. Now, during his Navy career, he accumulated about 1,900 hours flying time in 333 carrier landings, flying E-2C Hawkeye turboprops and later F-18 Hornets before leaving active duty to serve as the executive director at the Tulsa Air and Space Museum. So with all that different experience, hopefully he will be able to bring some of the things that he's learned to the new job. And after Bridenstine was sworn in, the two, Bridenstine and Pence, took a few moments to chat with 3 American astronauts that are currently aboard the International Space Station, who sent along their hearty congratulations to the new administrator. So that was actually pretty cool to see that and some of the things that they talked about. But in any case, Bridenstine thanked many of the folks at NASA who have helped and will continue to help him specifically prepare for his new role and to carry out the space policies that have been presented under the Trump administration and the National Space Council, to which they talked about a lot in his swearing in, to send human astronauts back to the surface of the moon and eventually send humans to Mars. So hopefully, as the administration has new leadership, things will be able to progress forward, and this will be a smooth transition, hopefully.
Yeah, no kidding. That's really cool. I mean, it's just, regardless of how anybody, I see a lot of different comments going on in the chat room. I am neither here nor there on any of those comments, just FYI. But regardless of how you feel about it, at least there's some momentum. There's some forward movement.
And I will say this is just my own personal opinion, but regardless of his qualifications and the things that he has said about climate change, he is a true believer in space flight and, is really passionate about NASA and NASA's goals and about space flight in general. So that's one thing that I will give him. And so he will at least bring enthusiasm to this new job. That's my hope.
Totally. And sometimes you can solve big problems with fresh eyes, which I think is really nice. So there's that. So these are the clever words about Gaia.
Yes.
Right?
We'll see. You can gauge how clever. But
so tell me about Gaia. Tell me, what is it? Where is it? What's going on? All the things.
Okay, all the things.
Yes.
Gaia is the European Space Agency Space Telescope. It's located at the second Lagrange point, which is on the opposite side of Earth from the Sun. So it's orbiting the Sun just on the outside of Earth. And it started science in 2014. Its launch was in 2013. But the big reason we've got it in the news today is it's given us its second data launch, or DR2, data release 2. And you're seeing it now. This is...
It's pretty.
I know. Oh, my goodness. So this is a high-resolution compilation of 1.7 billion stars.
That was billion with a B?
With a B.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So this is its second data release.
Nice.
And all right, so this data is 22 months worth of charting the entire sky. What you're seeing is a hammer projection of color and position. We've got, let's see. Sorry about that.
No, totally fine.
All right, so there we go. That's the Lagrange point.
Perfect.
So Gaia is out there past Earth at L2, so it's about 1.5 million miles past the Earth away from the Sun. Okay. So this position allows it to take a full sky image, and there's Gaia itself. This allows Gaia to take a full sky image every couple months. And so that way it's what it's doing is it's mapping position and both apparent and true motion of the stars. And now what you're seeing there is a density map.
Oh,
so
okay.
those are just individual points representing stars. So it doesn't represent the brightness of the stars themselves. It shows you where the stars are laid out. So that bright streak across the center, that is the disk of the Milky Way. And then the two brighter objects down below, those are large and small Magellanics. But a really cool thing that's only visible in this image is if you look directly at the center of the core of the galaxy and look below, there's a spike of brightness.
Yes.
All right, that one is, that is the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy.
Oh.
Yes, so it's a small galaxy that's being ripped apart by the Milky Way as we speak.
It's because it's too small. So are we absorbing that, or are we just breaking it apart?
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I know I'm asking questions that are not in your notes. I apologize.
That's all right. We are ripping it apart.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Aw, a little tear for Sagittarius Galaxy there.
That's okay. It's just joining the big dog.
All right, that works. Don't let me interrupt. Keep going.
All right. So this video is an image of parallax. So the way parallax is important because it allows us to measure the distance to the closest stars by using the way those closer stars move apparent to the distant background stars.
Okay.
And so that using trigonometry, we can take the amount of motion observed in those closer stars compared to those background stars, and we can figure out that distance using Earth's orbit as our baseline.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. And then, let's see, this is the comparison. So on the left, you have TGAS, that is Gaia's first data release.
Okay.
And TGAS, that stands for, let me check my super high-tech piece of paper. All right, that stands for Tycho Gaia Astrometric Solution.
Okay.
All right, that is 1.4 million stars.
Okay, perfect.
Compared to the image on the right, the DR2, that is 97 million stars.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes, and because, Gaia has done such amazing work.
Yeah, look at that.
These are 14,000 asteroids in our solar system that Gaia has mapped so far.
That's really, really cool.
Oh my gosh. So it's doing such amazing work. So they are actually thinking of extending the mission. Its original mission was going to run through 2019. They're thinking of extending it for another year into 2020.
Gotcha. And this is an ESA project,
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Nice. European Space Agency, just in case anyone's wondering out there. Awesome. That's really fascinating. So we're going to continue to get, I keep calling them data dumps in my head, data releases from Gaia. Is that correct?
Yes.
Possibly through 2020?
Yeah, so far they've done every 2 years, so we'll see.
And so we're mapping the stars. We're just trying to figure out where they all are. Like, What's the original basis, I suppose?
The original basis was to get a full sky survey. Gaia's original name, it's called GAIA because it was going to be a global astrometric interferometer for astrophysics.
Aha!
They dropped the interferometer and went with a straight-up optical telescope so that they could map dimmer stars.
Okay.
Get a more accurate picture of what's around us.
Sure.
But it is mapping stars. It's taking color, red and blue information, so that we can determine spectral class.
Gotcha.
So we can identify how big they are, where they are, and how old they are.
Flavor.
Nice.
Yeah.
What flavor they are? Maybe
I like the strawberry stars.
What they smell like soon. That's fascinating. That's really, really cool. And and thank you to Detta really quickly for making sure that Gaia was our second story from Sarah, so we did not have to end on farts, even though I'm going to mention it anyway. In any case, so that was our new segment. What we're going to do right now is move into a little bit of a calendar break. And if you follow any of us on Twitter, there's a fascinating video that somebody found with the same music. And I can confirm that is exactly what happens during our commercial break. But we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, Jared will be having a fascinating interview with the one, the only, the absolute space girl, Miss Holly Griffith. So stay with us. More tomorrow coming right up.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fall for little fashion lies. Filled with awesome expectation, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
Hello and welcome back to Tomorrow. Now, before we get into today's interview, I first got to give a huge shout out to our Escape Velocity citizens. These folks, of course, give us $10 or more per episode on Patreon or $30 a month or more on makersupport.com. But wait, there's more. That's right. There's a lot of you who actually support this show. And these are our orbital citizens. They get $5. They give us $5 or more per episode on Patreon or $15 a month on Maker Support. And they get some cool stuff. They get their name in the show twice. Like, that's odd. I'm only getting my name in the show once today, and I'm on the show. They get access to our exclusive citizens-only hangouts. They get early access to After Dark. They can view the show rundown so they can see us put the funny things like...
Technically twice. You're going to be in the third segment.
Oh, yeah, that's... Oh, no, I'm only going to get labeled once today, though. So that's the problem. I can only circle the Sharpie once. Yeah, don't forget your Sharpie when you circle your name. They also get voting rights on upcoming roundtable discussions. So if you would like to help crowdfund the shows of tomorrow, head on over to patreon.com/TMRO or makersupport.com/TMRO. All right, that's enough of that. So we are going to get into what is going to be an absolutely fun interview today. I am so excited to be talking to Holly Griffith, the absolute space girl. There is so much to talk about with you today. So we're really glad to have you here at Station 204. Thank you. And where should we begin, I guess? Should we like go back in the day to when you were like just a little girl? Is that a good place to start?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about sort of how you got interested in spaceflight.
So it was something I've always wanted to do. My dad was always very interested in science and science fiction and astronomy. We had a telescope when I was younger. And so we watched Star Trek, the original series. We would watch Star Wars. And so Princess Leia was a very inspirational figure to me. And so I kind of wanted to be her. And so I was like, well, what can I do to go in space? And I was like, well, there's this thing. It's called NASA. I was like, all right, so I'll do that. And so as I was growing up, I thought about different careers that would let me do that. And so engineering seemed like the closest thing. So I started looking at different types. Yeah, there's me.
Yeah, that's very... You
can see from an early age.
very early on thinking about your career choices. So
right. So I this weird hair thing going on here. So I decided to major in engineering. I went with mechanical. And when I graduated, my first job was this little small aeronautical company south of Houston. And I kept applying to NASA. And I got a job as a flight controller with a contractor called United Space Alliance. And it was with, I got a job in mission control, working as a flight controller for the space shuttle, the electrical power systems. And that was amazing, to be pretty much right out of college and working in mission control. And I worked every flight from 114 through 135, not 125, because they actually sent me out to the Cape to watch that launch. And that was kind of that's actually 125 right there. I was there for the launch. I'm in the LCC at KSC. And so it was amazing. I worked ascent entry for 131, 132, 133, and 135. So I closed out the end of the shuttle program. Our log books at the end of every mission, we take logs during the entire flight. And so I got to sign my name, at the end of STS 135 when we landed. And so after the shuttle program, I got a job with the space station program, being a flight controller with OSO. And so I did that for about a year. And that was fun, but I was a contractor, like I said. And so they started having more layoff rumors, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do this again. So I actually left NASA for about 3 years. And then after 3 years, I started to feel a little homesick. So started applying again. And I got another job, this time with NASA itself. And so now I'm working on the Orion program on the ECLA systems in safety. So I'm in safety and mission assurance as a vehicle systems engineer on the ECLA systems, environmental control and life support systems for the Orion.
That is quite a lot to go over with. And I started in 2004, and then I left in 2012 and came back in 2015. So a total with NASA about 11 years. Whew. So just want to go back a little bit to when you were younger, because when you sent over the photos for our interview, there were a lot of photos of you at space camp.
I went to space camp when I was in high school, and then I worked at space camp. That's when I was working at space camp. I worked there as a museum guide over 2 summers. For 2 summers, I actually interned with Marshall Space Flight Center. And so I interned there during the week, and then I just wanted to work at space camp. And so on the weekends, I was a museum guide. So I worked there as well.
Yeah, and what was that space camp experience like for you? What did that sort of set you on the path of what you wanted to do? Did it clarify where you wanted to go?
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons my parents sent me or let me go, because I was begging them to go, and because I was at that point in time, I know this is going to sound weird, but I was kind of I kind of wanted to do this international business thing, because I have this. Also this kind of fascination with the French language and culture, because my family is I'm from South Louisiana, and we're, Cajun culture, and my family grew up speaking French. And so I kind of wanted to pursue that. And so do this international business thing with French. And so I really loved that. And then I also really loved the science, the astronaut, the NASA engineering thing. And so, they were like, well, go to space camp and see if you really enjoy this, and maybe that'll help you decide. And so they sent me to space camp, and that was it. I'm doing this.
By the way, this photo that we have up on the screen right now, could you tell us a little bit about it? Because when I saw this, I was like, there it is. That's the dream realized right there.
Yeah. So on the left is me when I was in high school at space camp. I was, that's me sitting in the commander's seat. And then on the right is when one of our trips to the Cape, I believe to C-120, STS-125 liftoff. That's me in the bunny suit, and I'm sitting in the commander's chair of, I think it may have been, it's either Discovery or Endeavour, I don't remember.
Yeah, either of those, because Atlantis was flying 125. So
right. I know it's like,
it's a difference. Donna could probably figure out which one it is by looking at the right.
Yeah,
book,
and then it's also it's not the backup shuttle that was going to be STS-400. So
gotcha. So
it's that one.
So after space camp and after high school, obviously you went to college, and what was that like at that time? You know, kind of going through those programs.
So I started out at a small college in North Louisiana that didn't have engineering. They only had pre-engineering. And I did that because they had this NASA scholarship that was called JOVE, Jove. So it was joint venture with NASA. And while you went to school there, if you were on that scholarship, you got to do it's this partnership with NASA where you got to do some NASA research. And so I thought, well, I could do this pre-engineering and then get this research in and then just transfer to a different school, afterwards, and then just finish up my engineering degree. And so that's what I did. So then I just transferred down to another school later and finished up my engineering degree. And I was actually one of only 2 women in my class who graduated in mechanical engineering.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of the things that's sort of a big challenge in the STEM fields right now. It's getting women into the STEM fields and getting them to go through and complete as well. And what do you feel like are some of the challenges that are behind that? And yeah, sort of if you could speak to that.
Yeah, that's something I've actually looked into a lot. So when I graduated in the early 2000s, women were about 20% of engineering graduates. That number has not changed since I graduated. And in my research, there's been extensive studies done and a lot of research into this. And basically, it comes down to the very subtle messaging by teachers, by classmates, and by parents that start in about middle school. Because when the kids are in about elementary school, it's very equal. The scores on tests and the confidence in the girls that they think that, they're interested in science and math, and their confidence level is very high. It's when they get to like junior high, high school, these subtle messages from society in general, I guess, and their teachers and parents and things, it starts to tell them that they're not as good as the boys. Math and science is for boys. It starts, things like toys that are marketed towards young men or boys in general versus toys that are marketed towards girls. And it's just in the classroom, the messages that the teachers send out, and they don't mean to. It's not something that they really think about, but it's these messages that the girls get over time that just kind of tell them math isn't for you, science isn't for you, or if a boy does not do as well on a test, they get the message, oh, well, that's okay, you'll do well next time. Whereas if a girl gets a maybe not so great on a test, it's, well, that's okay, maybe this subject isn't for you anyway. And so that's the things that I think we need to start working on, not just maybe, having what we're doing now is just kind of sending, these booklets to school and, telling teachers just tell these girls that, STEM is for them. It's work on these finer, messaging points that, these subtle messages that we're sending these girls every day, work on that too, and then also tell them that, you can do these careers. And then also, have women who are engineers and people of color who are engineers to go out to these schools. Cause maybe engineers aren't the best communicators and a lot of engineers don't really like to communicate, but the ones that do like it and the ones that are good at it, I think we need to have better training for them and opportunities for them to go out to schools and to go to these places where the kids are and talk to them and really reach out and show them, you know, look, I look like you look like me, I'm doing this, you can do this too. So it is possible.
Yeah, and just to kind of, we have a comment from Carrie Ann in our chat room, which is in all caps, and I think you get the point of that, which is that all the women in the studio are shaking their heads in agreement, and I have to agree with that too, because I've been witness to that in engineering programs in my own college, and usually try to go up to people after the class and tell them to not listen to that kind of discouragement. So. Yeah, it's very difficult to nail that down, and you know, as individuals, what are some of the things that individuals can do to kind of help try to bring more women into STEM?
Just encourage them. You know, just if you're just in a position where. If you're just in a position and the topic comes up, you know, just tell them, hey, this isn't something that, you know, show them an example of a woman, you know, who's done something great, you know, show them their Twitter feed, you know, show them or someone, you know, just, you know, show them, hey, I know this girl and look, she did this or she did that. If you know a girl, if you have someone in your family, or a friend, and they don't, maybe then they don't even know that that's available to them. You know, maybe their family isn't encouraging them. Then yeah, just, you know, show them. You know, there's tons of like on Twitter, there's tons of we call it space Twitter, but there's lots of women in space Twitter, and you can, you know, show them their Twitter accounts, and they're doing all kinds of the wonderful things, and they have pictures of themselves just doing all kinds of things. So, I mean, just showing them, finding a woman who, you know, who looks like them, doing cool things, say, look at this girl, look what she's doing. You can do that. You know, there's no reason that you can't do that. And so finding examples of other women who were doing those things, it proves that, you know, whoever's telling them that they can't do it is wrong.
Yeah, and to kind of go to our chat room a little bit, because we have a couple people who are actually like sharing their stories about women that they know. Davey says that my niece got her degree in computer science, even though she was told not to, and even though she's dyslexic. If anyone can do it, anyone can. Yeah, and then BC in our chat room.
Congratulations.
It's a big shout out to you, Davey, and your niece. BC said, no one supported my wife until she had the courage to move away from home. I pushed her because she's amazing. Now she's going to med school. So BC, woohoo!
That's awesome, BC. Thank you.
And then Citizen 59371 points out, which is very important to spaceflight history, which is that women got us into orbit and to the moon anyway.
To the moon.
Yeah,
that's right.
So very important. Can't forget that aspect of it as well. So I want to sort of shift gears a little bit here to kind of talk about going into NASA and what that was like to work on the shuttle program, because for me and Dutta, shuttle is like the holy grail.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely. It's like for me. It's my baby.
Yeah, it's like the Ark of the Covenant. You know, we really like it, but also don't open it up because bad things. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about shuttle. What was your experience like working on the shuttle program?
Shuttle program was amazing. People can say what they want about it, and you know, yes, it did have its flaws. It wasn't perfect, and but whatever. We'll move away from that. But it was such an amazing vehicle. I think the fact that it was my first vehicle always, you know, that's going to play a fact into my, you know, my love of it. But shuttle was just amazing because it could just do so many things. You know, it had so let me go into what my job was on shuttle. First of all, I was the Eagle flight controller. So that's electrical generation and illumination, EGIL. So we were responsible for the electrical power systems of the shuttle, and the illumination part is the lighting systems. So they just needed a cool acronym, I guess. I know, illumination, right?
Yeah, it's the engineering, so that's the way it goes. So.
Yeah, right. So So that's the fuel cells, the electrical generation part. So the fuel cells, there was two parts of that. There was the electrical part, the actual, the wires and the AC, DC electrical part of it. And then there was the PRSD, or power reactant storage and distribution part of it, which was the fuel cell part, and then the cryogenic storage part of it, and then distribution. So the cryogenic part of it was hydrogen and oxygen. And there was 5 tanks of each in the, not just under the payload bay liner. And the hydrogen and oxygen would go into the fuel cell. And they would combine along with with KOH, or potassium hydroxide. That chemical reaction would cause an output of water, power, and heat. So the heat would go, into the shuttle cooling loops and then be radiated out into space. The water was pure water. So the astronauts would drink that. And then the power would obviously go to power up every system on the orbiter. And so that's how the shuttle was powered. And the cryo was like gas. So once you ran out of cryo, that's when you had to come home. And so the amount of cryo combined with how much power we used determined the length of our missions. So it's, think about it like gas in your car, how far you drive combined with how efficiently you use your gas mileage. That's how long you can go before you have to tank up again. So if we powered everything down, think like in Apollo 13, they were able to stay up in space longer. But if we just turned everything on and just, blew through it and didn't care, well, then we were going to have to come home sooner.
So with the shuttle and your time on the shuttle program, are there any interesting stories that you can tell us? At least that you can talk about on air publicly.
So my first certified flight was STS-117. And we were docked to station. And I came in and we do handover. So we work 9-hour shifts. And our first shift, we take handover from the previous team. So we read the logs and we read the handover form, and we basically talk to the flight controller who was on the previous shift, and we ask any questions that we have, and we just see what happened. And on that shift, the Russian computers on station had failed, and those computers controlled the navigation for the station. So since we were docked, what they wanted us to do was we were going to have to use the shuttle to control navigation while those computers were down. And we were going to have to troubleshoot the problem. But they wanted to do it while shuttle was docked because we had the ability to control the navigation. So it was basically like, look, we need to fix this while we're docked, because if we don't, we're going to have to abandon and deorbit the space station. And this is my first certified flight. And so I'm like, okay. Well, I don't remember simming this, but okay. So we took over, me and the front room person, because for every person in the front room of mission control that you see, they have at least one person in the back, so anywhere from like 1 to 4. And so we take over and what do you want me to do? So we just started working. Basically, we got the direction to just power everything down, so that we could stay in space longer, so that we could have as much time to troubleshoot that as we needed, if we needed to. And so I just started going around to, we had power downs on the books, but we wanted, this was going to go farther than any of those went. So I just I took my headset off and I just physically walked to each console in the back room. And I just said, give me what you got. What don't you need? What can we turn off? And let's talk about it. And so I got a list and I went, back and I talked to my front room and he talked to his counterparts in the front room, and we put together something, and we, we put it together, and we waited for the next team to come on so that they could look at it. And then, they looked at it, and then the next team came on because we wanted everybody to look at it and to make sure that everybody was on board. We didn't want to put it in place and then, the next team come on and then one of their other operators had a problem with it. So everyone looked at it and we put it together and everyone agreed. And then we did what we could to power down.
Wow, that's a lot of work on your first mission as well. We've got a couple of interesting questions from our chat room. I want to take one from Dada, which is, when you first started working on shuttle, was there a crash course to come up to speed? They sort of have like Shuttle 101,
we had a training academy that was about 3 months. That's just to get you familiar with all of the systems of shuttle and all of the systems of space station. But it takes about 5 years to get completely certified. So from back room to all the way to front room. To get your first cert takes about a year, depending on if there's anyone in the flow before you. And so I think I had like 2 people before me, so it took a little bit longer. But no, other than training academy, there's no crash course. They want you to take as long as you need, but within reason. Because they don't want you to cram. So it takes a while.
Yeah, I would imagine flying a crewed vehicle, they kind of want you to take your time to understand everything.
Yes, they want you to be ready.
Yes, that's the best way to go about it. So you left NASA for a little bit, but then you came back to work on Orion. Can you tell us a little bit about your work on Orion?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm safety and mission assurance. And what we do now is we don't do any of the design work. Other people do that, but we review a lot of the parts of the design. So we'll have meetings and people will show us things, and we'll kind of look out for like all the different pieces, all the different parts. But well, did you think about what if this valve, what if it breaks? What if this happens and then this valve does this, or this seal does that, or this, if this seal doesn't work, do you have a backup seal? Or, how many failures can you have before, or does it meet this requirement? If it has to you have to be able to have at least one failure and still be okay. Does this design meet that requirement? So we're kind of the negative Nancy's. The engineers want to think, oh, my design's great. What are you talking about? It's perfect. And it's like, well, it is if it doesn't have to go in space. But, so we're kind of pointing out all of the things that everyone else misses, because it's like, no, we have these requirements. Something has to be able to fail. And then the astronauts have to still be able to come back home. So that's what we do is make sure that the vehicle is safe enough to have humans in it, at least for EM2, and then and safely come home.
All right, and we do have a question from the chat room, and actually, are we going to hold real quick?
Yeah, let's get an edit point. Holly, our automatic meeting is going to end. I'm going to set up another one and give you an email. Can you call back, and then we can continue and pick up from there?
Yeah.
Okay, what do I need to do?
I'll send you an email. Just hold real quick.
Oh, an email. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're testing out a new system, but it doesn't seem like some of the stuff that they said was going to be in the system has been given to us yet. So, and there it went. So just like that. So stand by, all of our TMRO viewers. Welcome to Watching Live. Yes, that's right. We are here to kill the magic for you any and all ways that we can. So, and I'm just sitting here now, hanging out. Hey, what's up?
Hey,
how's it going?
Shout out to Everyday Astronaut.
What's up, Everyday Astronaut? Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, is
how amazing our chat room is and how amazing our community is.
Yes, and I do want to say that with this awesome discussion that we've been having with Holly today, our chat room has been amazing. Our community has been amazing. You guys are absolutely amazing. You know that? I just want to sing your praises beyond just, the support that you give the show, like financially or anything like that with the crowdfunding. You guys are like super on it and like really good. Like this is not something that you find very often, and that's really one of the joys of doing this show is all of you guys and getting to do this with you. So just want to let you know that like it's all good. So it's really fun stuff. So we're just hanging out. I'm definitely going to ask some more questions because there's some other things with Holly that we got to definitely talk about that would be really cool. So, all right. So, yes, I guess we're just kind of waiting on Holly to get back with it. So, really fun stuff. Yeah, this is interesting. I don't know why we're having.
There were a couple of questions about solids and whether or not you can throttle them. Can you?
Yeah, so so there were a couple questions in the chat room about being able to like throttle solid rocket motors. Typically, you are not able to, but as Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, pointed out in our chat room, is that you can actually change the shape of the core that you bore out in the solid rocket motor to change the amount of surface area that's burning. And when you do that, you can change the amount of thrust. So you actually can throttle a solid rocket motor. You just have to have that like pre-built into it. And actually, Shuttle would do that. It had a specific core for specific missions. You know, they would figure out what they were going to core out for it. So, which is just like wild to think about. You know, like not only is like this specific shuttle being used because of its weight, we're also going to have this specific core in these solid rocket motors because this is how much thrust we need to. It's some wild stuff, right? Like that's ridiculous. Like who thinks of these things? People like Holly. So, yeah.
Yeah, good call.
So, yeah, it's pretty good. So. Have I lost weight? Yeah, just a little bit. I've actually lost like 5 pounds in the past couple of months. I've started eating
Shorts instead of pants. So
yeah, I am wearing shorts today too. So sorry, I know people usually complain when I wear shorts. Sorry, but I'm doing something at the place that must not be named today. So and I brought pants, but I just like didn't put them on. So
I appreciate that you're wearing a NASA shirt for Holly.
So yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to wear the shirt anyhow.
Also, I love that you've got the meatball shirt and she's got the worm shirt.
Yeah, well, you know, we coordinate on things.
Each other beforehand?
So yeah, we did. I should probably point that out to her when she comes back.
Whoa,
so I definitely will.
Cool.
So I don't know. I'm just in 2 places at once. So
you know, you do seem to vibrate with time.
what? Like I vibrate with time?
Yeah.
Like what do you mean?
I can never get a good picture of you because you're always like in motion.
Hashtag blur Jareds.
Yeah.
Just like that blur dogs thing
Right, that's
going
what
on.
I'm
So.
saying.
Yeah, it was like when the boy got me the Saturn V. So, all right, welcome back, Holly. Can you hear us?
Almost.
Yes, there we go.
Excellent, awesome.
Yes.
Karen,
Okay, so we'll cut all of that out. Just come back from her last thing, and you said you had something to.
Yes. Also, before we get restarted on the interview, Carrie Ann just pointed out that we're both wearing NASA shirts. My shirt has the meatball logo. Your shirt has the worm logo.
I noticed that too.
which is your favorite logo?
I can't. It's like my children.
Oh, okay. Well, mine's the worm. So
the worm.
I think the
that's
worm
fine.
is the best.
I won't judge.
So, all right. So. Thank you, Holly. I appreciate it. Makes me feel so much better. All right, so here we go. All right, you ready to go back, Holly?
Yes.
Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to come back with a question from the chat room.
Okay.
So, Holly, we have a question from our chat room from Astro YYZ, which is asking, are there similarities between working on the shuttle program and work on Orion? And I think you would be particularly well suited for answering that.
There are yes and no. So you have to realize I did 2 very different jobs on shuttle and what I'm doing now on Orion. Before I was operations, and now I'm safety and more kind of designish. But the lessons that you learned from working on shuttle in terms of safety and the things that are always in the back of your mind in terms of keeping the crew safe and keep wanting the vehicle to be safe. Those lessons are always the same. You want the vehicle to be safe. You want to operate in a safe environment. You want the crew to be safe. You want the redundancy. You want, all of those things to remain the same. Because part of our training, whenever we were shuttle flight controllers, because I came in 2004, so that was 1 year after the Columbia disaster. So part of our training was to read the CABE. So a lot of what's in the CABE does apply now to what we're doing in terms of safety and in terms of, what is a hazard, what is a risk, how much risk are we willing to accept. So yes, a lot of that does play into it.
Yeah, and just to kind of clarify for viewers, CABE is at the Columbia Accident Investigation.
The Columbia Accident Investigation Board. It was the report, the accident report that was generated after the accident.
Gotcha.
The investigative report.
Excellent, thank you. And we've got another comment from YouTube from Travis Neal, which is asking you if you've ever been interested in pursuing the private space industry, like programs like Blue Origin and SpaceX. With that there, because you left NASA for a little bit and then you came back to NASA.
I did.
So kind of how do you feel about sort of private space?
I think private space is great. I think the more space, the better, right? The more access to space, the better. I wouldn't be opposed to private space. I do feel like it's more stable at NASA, just a government job overall. I feel like it's more stable. But no, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I haven't thought about it, especially since I came back to NASA. But if something did happen with Orion, or if I did lose my current job for some reason, yeah, I would definitely be open to looking at Boeing or SpaceX or something like that.
Yeah, and also from our chat room, Citizen59371 is asking if engineers are trying to find ways to make onboard spacecraft systems less complicated, which, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if going in, that's a goal. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to explain. They're just trying to they're just trying to find what's the best way, if that makes sense. If it's less complicated, then great. But if, it's also what's the safest, what's the best. It's the whole lot of things come into play. You're going to look at materials, because a lot of it is requirements, so the spacecraft has to be able to has to be able to operate in an environment, that's certain pressure, certain temperatures, certain vibrations, certain, you have all these things that the spacecraft has to be able to do. It has to perform in a certain way. And so the systems have to be able to perform in a certain way. And so it's not necessarily that we try to go out of our way to make it complicated. It's just that sometimes in order to meet those requirements, that's what ends up happening. And so it's tough. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
So we do if we can find a way to do things easier, but those requirements are still met, then yeah, we'll do it that way. But if we can't find a way to do that, then we still have to keep it complicated.
Kind of reminds me of Richard Feynman talking about quantum mechanics being interviewed, and the interviewer asks him, you had to build the most complicated scaffolding anyone ever has in order to explain the universe. And then Richard Feynman goes, no, it's not complicated. There's just a lot of it. So
right, exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about you yourself, because not only are you like an incredible asset to NASA and women in STEM, but you are also like and I say this as a compliment, you are a absolute nerd, I guess is how I would put it, because I mean I am too about things. So so tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you do. Like we've got a photo of you here with Dr. Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, hanging out. So
he's my hero.
And we've also got a few more as well. Some people who have visited you at NASA as well during your work, which has been very interesting. Oh yeah, here we go. This is a great one here. Young you wearing that. So
that's Leia from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And then speaking of Leia, I saw that photo. Dada, if you want to bring it up real quick here. Here's our next one. So
everyone gets on me because it's like the only Halloween costume I have. So every year I'm Leia.
Well, I think it works. I mean, so I take it you really like Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm in my Star Wars room right now. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, we kind of noticed with all of the posters. There's even a porg behind you as well. The
porg,
there. Yeah. So what is it about Star Wars that you like so much?
Well, Leia was a character that had never been. She was such a strong female character that had never been like before. There was never a character like her who was such a strong female character. She was just so different from every other character that had ever come before her. I mean, she was literally the only woman in the room, but she was like the only woman on the planet, or the space station, whatever you want to call it. And these guys come in and they're like, we're going to rescue you. And she's like, well, you came in here, you don't have any plan for getting out. Oh, screw it, and she takes the gun and she's just like, all right, this is what we're doing from now on.
Into the garbage chute.
And if you think about it, like
right? So.
everybody she meets Vader, the first, thing she tells him is like, the Senate's not going to take your stuff. And then she meets Tarkin and she's like, you smell bad. And then she meets Luke and she's like, aren't you short? And then she meets Han and she's like, you got in here, but you have no plan for getting out. So she like insults everyone she meets the first time she meets them. She just takes nothing, she just does her own thing. And she was just so strong-willed and such a great role model, I thought. And she was just kind of growing up that she was who, whenever I saw her as a little girl, I was like since I saw her from such a young age, she kind of showed me, oh, well, that's what women can do. And from then on, anytime anyone else said, no, you can't do that, I was like, well, but Leia could do it, because when I was 4 years old, my grandfather told me, well, I was like, I'm going to be an astronaut. And he's like, well, no, you're a woman. You have to be a nurse or a teacher. Not that there's anything wrong with that. My husband's a teacher, but I was like, well, no, Leia, but have you seen Star Wars? No, that's not right. And so, so she was just like such an inspiration to me and showing me what a woman could do. And being there's so few women in engineering. It's, her story, since she's always the only woman around all the guys, and she still took charge and did her own thing. It was just really inspirational. And so I credit her to, I give her a lot of credit for where I am today.
And in our previous episode, we actually had a discussion about whether science fiction influences a lot of people greatly to actually get into the STEM fields. Do you kind of feel like it's maybe not just in your case, but it is? Oh, absolutely. So.
Oh yeah, I give talks on that. I've given talks on that at Star Wars Celebration. A couple of Star Wars celebrations, actually, and other cons, around the country. And I also talked about it at the Smithsonian last year. They invited me at the Air and Space Museum. They invited me to speak at the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. And I kind of talked about that too. Oh yeah. I mean, and then we have so many, and I say this lovingly because I consider myself a nerd or geek or whichever one you want to call it. So many Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, all of, Harry Potter, all of it at NASA, everyone in some way is, whatever, pick your fandom, is a nerd.
Yeah, exactly. So Holly, we're going to wrap up our interview, but before we officially end it, we do ask all of our guests 4 questions. These are sort of like wrap-up questions. With these questions, there are no wrong answers. They are simply the answers that you give us. So you ready to go for them?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your favorite space mission, past, present, or future?
I can't, shuttle missions. Oh my gosh. I just love them all. My favorite one to work though was probably, I probably 131, STS 131, just because it was my first ascent entry. And so the adrenaline that first ascent was just so exciting. So probably that one.
Excellent.
STS 131.
Yeah. All right. Our second question, human or robot exploration of the cosmos?
You can't compare the two, both. They do different things. It's apples or oranges.
All right. And our third one, where should we go next?
Human or robot?
Either or both. You tell me both.
Humans. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get so much flack for this, but I say moon. I say this for practical reasons. I am not anti-Mars. I just feel like technically, I'm not going to say we're not there yet, but I think we could learn a lot more and get better at a lot of things by going back to the moon first. So that when we do go to Mars, it would be much easier. Biologically, I think there's a lot of problems we haven't solved yet, like the radiation problem. And so I think we need to wait a little bit longer until either some technologies get better or we decide on maybe different means of propulsion so I just think we need some time before we decide to go to Mars. But I am pro Mars and I do want to go there. I just think going to the moon first could help us just get some roadblocks out of the way. Robotically, Europa, man, we need Europa, about that.
Figure out what's under that ice. So
yeah.
So our final question, this is my favorite question to ask anybody.
Okay.
Why space?
Why not? So gosh, there's so many different answers you could give to this. I'll give, depends on who you're talking to. Because there's many different answers to this question. And when I do give talks and people ask me this, I try to gauge where they're coming from. But so imagine if we had not landed on the moon, what would we be like today? Where would we be at in terms of technology? Would we have things like iPhones? Would we have, so much technology came from just going to the moon. Personally, I don't like that answer. Don't get me wrong. I like my iPhone and we probably would have gotten there eventually. But to some people, that's enough for them and they're happy and they'll walk away with that. I think as humans, we explore and we want to know. And I think that exploring just for the sake of knowing and just for the sake of knowledge and just for the sake of exploring, for me, that's enough. I want to know what's out there. I want to learn. I want to learn about how our planets formed, how our solar system formed. I want to learn, is there life on other planets? Obviously, I don't think we're going to, have something like Kepler and find intelligent life on some other planet. I don't think that's how it's going to work. But could we find, unintelligent life? That would be an amazing discovery. Just knowing that is an amazing discovery, and would be mind blowing to me. So just doing it for the sake of knowledge, for me, that's what gets me up in the morning. I love it. I just love it to learn.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Holly. And if folks would like to learn more about you, where should they go?
They can follow me on Twitter. It's absolute, like the vodka, space, GRL. And those are for Twitter reasons. I can only have like 15 characters. So yeah. So it's absolute, no E, space, GRL, absolute space girl.
All right. Well, Holly Griffith, thank you so much for coming on tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And we're going to go ahead and go to our break. And after that break, your comments from last week's show. So stay tuned. There's more tomorrow in just a little bit.
Science. It both draws us together and tears us apart. Brings discoveries to cure us and threaten us. It is neither good nor evil. It is what we decide to make of it. There is so much more to learn. And we are curious. Together, let's explore the science of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Woo.
All right, we clearly need some resetting. I think we're actually like way too close too, on top of everything else.
Hey.
Keep things out of the middle camera because of reasons.
Hologram.
Oh wow.
So.
Doing what?
We can move Mike over this way just a tad.
Well, this is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The table's too close to the cameras.
Yeah, the table needs to go back a little bit.
I know. Watch your feet.
Good.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like that first time I was on a Tomorrow show, and Ben used feet instead of meters, and he hit you with the table.
It's all right. It could be so much worse.
Which one was that? Polar Lander?
Shh. Won't mention that. That was more a contractor issue than anything else. Anyways.
Yes.
Great. How's the thing?
He needs to go over this way a little bit. There you go.
What, we're talking Joy Division in the chat room now?
I don't know what we're talking
What's going on?
in the Joy.
That's like a band I like enjoy a lot. So.
Fantastic.
I
You
have
enjoy
a
Division?
I enjoy Joy Division.
Ah.
Is that fine?
So.
One of these things
It's
is not like the other.
One of these things is not
Yeah, nobody knows the rest of that song, honestly. Let's just be fair.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Picnic.
All I know is that
Right?
it's just me on this camera. So we're hanging out again.
All of a sudden,
So-
I like lean forward and I'm like, and Mike's gone.
I feel like I should like have a drink in my hand. Hey everybody, welcome back.
I feel like
Do we high five?
Oh, space turret, level turret. Gotcha. Got it. I got your Joy Division joke. Nicely done.
good job. By the way, all of YouTube, thank you
Oh my
for
gosh.
helping each other out. One Ann_on YouTube was asking how to ask a question. Everybody in the YouTube channel was helping everybody else understand how to ask a question. It was a little bit late to ask your question, but again, if Holly comes on in After Dark, we can definitely get to some of those as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yes, Stoge, mini Stoge. There's a science episode tomorrow. Science episode on next week, which will be highly entertaining.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be like really tired next week. So because I'm going to the launch. I'm going to Insight.
Yeah,
I'm at Griffith that evening and then just leaving straight from work.
Gotcha.
No sleep till
like, wasn't-
Vandenberg.
I wasn't sure. No sleep till Vandenberg. That almost works actually.
So,
That's okay.
Yeah.
Vandenberg.
All right, so normally I would be Capcom. You squared up the Jared camera. Do we want to open on Jared, or are you okay opening on me?
Let's open on you. Kitty, can you move that camera?
Yep.
Just
Kitty's like, I just sat down, but sure.
just for the open and hold it there, and then when I see the things moving in your head. That's fine. And then when we do the thing, move back to Jared.
We need you the thing.
Here, let me help you.
Mike. Now, he sees the like, but it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we're gonna open on this camera. Is that correct?
All right, I'm gonna
Yes.
and I'm gonna have to do
Perfect.
this to get out of the way.
No, don't do
So-
that.
No,
Don't
you're cool.
do that. Don't do that.
Everybody ready?
As will ever be, honestly.
Okay.
Don't do that either.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Hello and welcome to the third segment. I am still Carrie Ann, and I want to make sure I give another thank you to our patrons. These are the Escape Velocity people. They, of course, get their name in their show again, and you're right, Jared, they get their name in the show more than anybody else.
That's right.
Isn't that awesome? We also have our Orbital Citizens, and they also get their name in the show for a second time. And then we have our Suborbital Citizens. Now, these citizens you've not heard about yet today, so we are going to tell you a little bit about them. They have contributed $2.50 per episode on Patreon or $5 a month on Makersupport.com. They, of course, get their name in the show, just like we do. They get early access to After Dark, early access to some view-only copy of the show rundown so you can see all the things we're about to talk about and more sometimes. And they get a few other things, but again, we have talked about this a lot. So if you are interested in getting your name in the show and contributing to Tomorrow and becoming a citizen, you can head on over to patreon.com/TMRO or Makersupport.com/TMRO. Lost Mike there for a second, so I had to stretch. I apologize. In any case, here we are. I know,
Here we
right?
go.
Oh my goodness gracious! What was I saying? I wasn't here last week. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm a little bit off of my things.
You're good. Take your time.
So last week we were talking with these people. You did this interview, Jared. Is that correct?
It's the Space Nation.
Thank you. And who were we talking with?
We were talking to Kalevaha Yakola.
I'm so glad I made you do that because I looked at that slate and went, I don't know what I'm doing
Kalevaha
here.
Yakola.
And Kali, that was a fun interview.
Yeah, it really was. And I'm going to get that app as soon as it's on iOS.
Fantastic poster.
Some good stuff.
So I can't tell if you guys actually really, really enjoyed this one or really, really hated it because there were like no comments anywhere. So I guess everything that had to have been said about it was said in the interview, which, I mean, it was a good interview. So
yeah,
good know about that.
There you go.
In any case, one of our first comments, all of these comments came off of YouTube because that's the only place anybody commented on this one, which is totally fine because that was cool. The first comment comes again off of YouTube from Sibedo19. Mm-hmm.
Sibedo19.
Sure, we're gonna go with that. It says, love the new rocket designs. If BFR, being Big Falcon Rocket, is successful, I hope the rest of the industry emulates SpaceX's design. This is an exciting time to be alive. I like this comment because I was like, yes, it is an exciting time to be alive, but if all the rockets look the same, then we couldn't debate on which of your shuttle is your favorite shuttle. Because for those of you very, very, very long-time viewers, that's a little bit of an inside joke, so I will explain. I famously have said that all of the shuttles look alike, and I got so much flack for that. It was absolutely amazing.
Incorrect.
Absolutely amazing, and 10 years in, I'm going to stick to that, but just mostly because I can. But it does point towards that idea that I wanted to say specifically is that if all of the other rocket providers built the same kind of rocket or similar looking rocket, it just wouldn't be interesting, man.
Variety is the spice of life.
Right?
Right? So why can't it be the same for vehicles that ride on combustion?
Right. Well, I mean, they're doing different things. They're going different places. You don't want them to be identical because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You're not all going to the same place.
Yeah, like it makes no sense to send a rocket using kerosene and liquid oxygen to Mars because you've got like your carbon dioxide and the other stuff there that you can make methane out of. So
actually, speaking
like
of methane, going a little bit back to not your anus per se, but Uranus.
Yes.
Uranasa.
Uranus.
Uranus. But there's the two U's. I'm going to get there. It's fine. Raj Luthra in our YouTube channel asked much earlier in the show, can Uranus, how do you say it?
Uranus.
Uranus. Can Uranus be used for fuel or to fuel spaceships?
Ooh, on that one, I'm going to have to ask Jared.
All right, just want to make sure. I wanted to give you credit where credit was due on that one.
Totally. Rocket fuel is not my thing.
That would be very, very difficult to do. You've literally got to I don't know what level the methane is at there. I would imagine that it's probably not on the wisps of the
it's in the
atmosphere.
0.1 parts per million.
Yeah. So
low down in the atmosphere.
You could dip into the atmosphere and have a scoop, Like, this is something that's actually been talked about, like actual future spacecraft
like
using.
pea soup?
Yeah, like a scoop.
No, I understand the
But, like-
concept, sure, like clam chowder, but like literally scoop it out of the
Well, you're flying.
atmosphere?
You kind of fly. You like dip a little bit into the atmosphere, and as you do, the atmospheric pressure increases because there's more particles of atmosphere,
Right.
And you end up getting them to go down the scoop, and you like hold them in a tank, and you like pressurize the tank so you can stuff more and more atmosphere in it. You basically, it's kind of like. Gosh, this is really tough.
No, I mean, I believe you.
Like,
I just
almost like air breathing engines or like jet engines or something
Yes.
like that. How
Okay,
they
okay.
pull their fuel from the atmosphere. In the similar way, we would pull fuel from the atmosphere, but we'd have to convert it. We wouldn't be burning it instantaneously. We would have to convert it first. And with the amounts that we're talking about on Uranus or Uranus, that would be a lot of atmospheric scooping to try to get something
Yes.
usable.
Yeah.
So.
okay, so not necessarily. I mean, we like the idea, but not necessarily. That's what we're saying?
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of filtering
Okay,
to get down to the actual combustible material.
that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, good question. And we all learned something today.
Yeah.
And I'm sticking with pea soup, so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. And I think what you could do too, to prevent yourself from losing altitude, you could put some sort of like a electric propulsion engine on the backs that could give you an equivalent thrust.
Sure.
Because I know there was, I can't recall the name. GOCE, GOCE. I can't recall what the acronym stands for. It was a European Space Agency mission that had a spacecraft that was designed to fly basically through the upper atmosphere of the Earth to measure the Earth's gravitational distribution so that you could get really good maps of things like that. And it had a little ion engine to push at a constant acceleration so that it could stay at an ultra low altitude in order to do that. It was literally like 120 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. It's like ridiculous. Yeah, so you could do something like that. You don't necessarily have to lose your orbit around that if you're willing to do that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like instead of having to fuel midair.
Well, just instead of losing, because if you're going through the atmosphere, you're generating drag, so you're losing velocity or
okay,
losing energy, which lowers your velocity. You could then, you could have a little bit of thrust that prevents you from losing that energy. So, yeah.
All right.
Now, isn't it Neptune that has a lot of hydrogen? Wouldn't that be a smarter place to try to do something like this? Or
I don't think so. I think Neptune's also like Uranus, which is an ice giant.
Yeah.
So
It color-wise, the blue is created by methane, but so you're not really working with as much hydrogen as you would have, say, at Saturn or Jupiter.
Okay.
yeah, the problem at Saturn and Jupiter though is the gravity well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yowza.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's just bring the fuel with us.
Noted. All right. Next comment comes again off of YouTube. This one comes from Chad Snow. It says, Space Mike, on the test mission, was that the same landing legs? What was the sideways flame after the landing, and why did SpaceX build another Block 4? I apologize. This was a lot thrown at you all at the same time.
Oh, you know nothing, Chad Snow.
Oh, sad.
I'm just kidding. Actually, with this one, those landing legs, as far as I know, are the same type that SpaceX has been using ever since they had an upgraded version of it. Those are the first landing legs on that particular core. And why they needed another Block 4 for the test mission, I don't know, but that was the last Block 4 Falcon 9 core that SpaceX has built. So hopefully the last one that we'll see, and we'll start seeing the Block 5 launches really soon. It is going to be reused for one more mission since it landed. It's been assigned to the CRS-15, I believe. Could be 16, because, yeah, we already had the 15 mission, right? No. Yeah, for the upcoming CRS-15 is what that one's going to be assigned to. So as for the sideways flame, I'm not sure about that either, but I believe that was just the direction that went as they were doing the shutdown. Unless you're talking about how the flame can go sideways as it's coming in for a landing, and that's just helping its direction so that it doesn't tip over. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Cool.
I'm sure if it doesn't, someone will let us know.
Yes.
Thank you, Space Mike, for that. Next comment comes from Kevin F. Says, you should change your time from UTC to MTC, Coordinated Martian Time.
Oh, That would be very, very tough. Actually, I just want to point this out. The current time in UTC is 1935, and the current time in Coordinated Mars time is 2105. So we're actually not that far off. But, of course, Mars, its rotation is about 40 minutes longer than the Earth's is.
Right.
So that changes every single day.
Every single Earth day.
Yeah, every single Earth day,
Yeah.
as opposed to every single Martian day.
There you go.
Yeah, so.
That's what I'm
Every
saying.
single show would be at a different time.
Right. Look, man, it's already hard enough to tell people what time we are on. Like, the last thing we need to be is like, well, depends on the date. Like, this date's gonna be right. Could you imagine? Like, I already have only the one watch, but I know a lot of the astronauts at the International Space Station have two. My understanding is that it's coordinating Universal Time and then Houston local time. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would imagine that would probably be it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I know. I'm looking at planetary people.
I know
like they're going to tell me.
I know the engineers at JPL, they have the Mars watches, right?
Yeah.
For landing, initially after landing.
Yeah,
So.
And a lot of the controllers who are in SFOF, or Space Flight Operations Facility, running Curiosity, they are on
They're living
Mars
on Martian
shift.
time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that gets a little tough.
Yeah. I can only imagine.
Like, it sounds cool to like, oh, I'm
Right?
going to
I'm
work
on
40
Mars
minutes
time.
later.
It does.
I get to sleep in, a half hour every day. And then you're like, oh, now I'm going into work at 3:40 a.m.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's sleep shifting.
Yeah, and I think there's just been studies done to see how humans react to that, and it's
Right.
like universally negative.
Yes.
Like night owls and early risers, it's just like, to how that works.
Yeah. Don't mess with our sidereal time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we just abolish daylight
Circadian
saving
rhythms.
time altogether? Can we just start there,
Arizona
please?
did.
Yeah, I know, Arizona. The hologram
Only
always
thing
likes
we've
to
done
tout that one. Like, I live it
Only
anytime I
thing we've
want.
ever done right.
Neat. Yes, and we're all jealous. All right, next comment comes off of YouTube from Kurtz Mays. Says, I'm mistakenly thought lunation meant vertical libration?
Libration. Yeah, you got
but
it.
it is a period of time from one new moon to the next, so not relevant.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay.
I mean, right, I appreciate that too. Actually, I had to read this comment a couple of times. I was like, wait, what are we talking about? And then I kind of had to go back and, oh yes, okay, that was the reference. All right, now I understand. And I mean, it is, sure, not relevant in that way if that's what you thought the definition was, and the definition is actually different, but I learned a new definition, so I thought that was, and we changed cameras. So I thought that was good. And then the last, unless somebody else has anything else to say,
No.
Mike?
See you on the next lunation.
Aha, there you go. The last comment for the show is from one Brandon Byers. Says Omega with a capital A sure reminds me of SpaceX. Sincerest form of flattery, right? So this rocket will be derived from shuttle components. Does that mean it will take orbital ATK 10? Nope, 16 years to build it. Seems that that's what the cool kids are doing these days. I'm looking at you, Aries. I mean SLS.
Ouch! Wow.
That was a little bit of a burn. Yeah.
I need some aloe vera after that one.
Well, considering Ares 1 was the only thing that was actually built and test flown during the Constellation program, that says a lot about this particular rocket.
But was that even like an Ares 1?
Not really. I mean, it was really just the 5-segmented solid booster. It had like a dummy upper stage.
Yeah.
However, they, in their like most latest like announcement video for this, they've shown different pieces of hardware that they've already built for this. I mean, it's a shorter stack than it is. It's different. Like they're going to use like a 2-segment version essentially of the solid rocket booster, and that's already been built. They've already built that version. I don't know where they are as far as qualification testings, because they have to test fire those rocket motors, but a lot of the other pieces of this rocket have already been tested. The solid rocket boosters for this, those have already been tested. The engine that they're going to be using for the upper stage is very well tested, although how they're going to do the tankage for that is something I want to know about, and who's going to build that, because otherwise, if they're building the tankage themselves, they can call it whatever they want. Otherwise, it's a Centaur upper stage, essentially.
Yes.
But they're pretty far along on this, actually, and
That's
they're
cool.
hoping to secure funding from the Air Force to add this rocket to the EELV, the Expendable Evolved Launch Program, launch vehicle program, to start launching national security payloads like within the next 2 to 3 years. So they might be a lot farther along on this than you think.
Interesting. All right.
Neat.
Very cool. Yeah?
That's pretty neat.
Pretty neat.
I also want to make sure I give a thank you to even more citizens of tomorrow.
Wow.
These are the ground support crew. And please understand that while you might have your name only in the show, only once as it were, these people have definitely contributed to the progress of tomorrow. These people have contributed $1 per episode on Patreon or $1 per month on makersupport.com. They, of course, get their name in the show as a thank you. They get access to our exclusive citizen-only hangouts and early access to After Dark as soon as it's available on demand. Again, as a thank you. Every little bit helps, and we appreciate every part of it. And so there you go. Next week, we have on Frank Bunger, who's the CEO of luxury space hotel company Orion Span.
Yes.
And we will also be having a Tomorrow Science episode, which is very cool. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do. It is a lot of fun. It's a very similar format. We definitely have a lot of fun on there, and questions and comments about last week's show. And also in After Dark, we're going to get to know Sarah a little bit better. I know, I'm going to put you on the spot. It's going to be great, though. It's going to be great, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you for joining us. We will see you all next week. Just so you know, Jared is the one who has a time constraint today, so we are going to go ahead and let him go with that.
And I just want to say thank you, Holly, for the awesome interview today. It was really,
thank you.
It was so much fun getting to talk with you today.
And the coordinating shirts was like a super added bonus.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cool. Oh, there we go. There's Miss Holly. Wonderful. Yeah, so Jared has to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Jared.
Bye, Internet. I'll see you next week. I'm going to be really tired, but I'll see you next week.
It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
It's going to be so good. Yeah, so great. I guess it means I'm in control now. That's a very, very scary thought. Miss Holly, for sure, I wanted to make sure that we asked, there was at least one person in the chat room, on the YouTube chat room actually, named Ann On, that was very insistent upon asking what Mars 2010... Okay, it says, tomorrow I'd like to ask her, what will Mars 2020 tell us that InSight won't? I don't even know if you can answer that, honestly, but if you have any ideas.
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no worries.
I don't know.
I can throw some stuff out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't see why not.
Right? So Mars 2020 is going to have, it's follow-up to Curiosity, so it's going to be another roving science laboratory on the surface of Mars. InSight is a seismometer. So we're going to be listening to the shaking of the inside of Mars, trying to better map its core, figure out maybe why it lost its magnetic field, its shield from the solar particles. Hopefully that we can better figure out what happened to the water on Mars. So that's what InSight's going to do. Mars 2020 is going to be looking for possible evidence of life on Mars. We found, with Curiosity, we found schnapps, the 6 elements that all life on Earth have in common.
Which, do you remember what those are? Because I know schnapps is an easy way to say it, but what are those?
Those
We're not talking peach, right?
Nope.
Okay.
Mint. No. So, schnapps is carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. Okay.
Nice.
All life on Earth has those. Humans are a lot more complex, but...
Yeah, I know. I'm moving you. I'm sorry. It's getting a little wobbly bits at the moment. Go on.
All right, so Curiosity found those within 8 months of landing on Mars. Great. Mission accomplished. Now, Mars 2020 is going to be looking for organic compounds, more complex, maybe even proteins, amino acids. Ooh. And there's possibly... They're still building it. It hasn't been approved officially yet, as far as I know, but they're working on a sample return program for Mars 2020. So we could get the first pieces of Mars brought back to us with the Mars 2020 program.
Gotcha. Cool.
Very cool.
So
Awesome
Insight is
answer.
going to feel Mars. 2020 is going to taste Mars.
Yes. And spit it back out at us.
On purpose.
Right? It's actually a really good way of putting that. Thank you for knowing something that I clearly have no clue. So that's fantastic.
Spit us over at JPL.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Let's see. I want to make sure. So I apologize, Holly, for a second. The chat room also has no idea. Well, our entire audience has no idea who Sarah is.
Yeah, I want to know more about you, Sarah. Please tell us about it.
No, I'm not trying to downplay that in any way, shape, or form. But Ms. Sarah, feel free to explain to the entire universe why you deserve to be on the show. I mean, not that didn't just do it, honestly, because I had no clue. But yeah, who are you? Where'd you come from? Why are you here?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and my day job is I'm a museum guide at Griffith Observatory. I'm also a section producer on our monthly science channel, science program, All Space Considered. And yes, I am a space geek.
What? I'm weird. That doesn't make sense at all.
I know. I am an independent filmmaker making science fiction.
Nice.
So, and while my story, I did start with Stinky Uranus.
I mean, might as well.
Right, my bent is cosmology. I like origin of the universe. I want to know deeper structure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very, very
If you think about it, though, that was a very appropriate way to break the ice, so to speak, was a fart joke. So you'll fit right in here, I suppose.
Oh,
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
Oh.
Yeah. Mike, was there anything in particular that you specifically wanted to ask Holly? I know that we kind of had some weird chat room stuff going on there.
Well, let's see. Have you always been a space fan, or like many of us, were you into space as a kid and then fell out of it and came back into it? What's your story of being a space enthusiast?
I was always a fan. Like I said, my dad was really big into science fiction. He was really big into astronomy. We had a telescope when I was a kid. I remember looking at Halley's Comet. And so between Star Trek and Star Wars, I just wanted to be in space when I grew up. And so the closest thing was, at the time it was just NASA. And so we had the shuttle, and the astronaut was what every kid wanted to be if they thought about space. Didn't really know about astrophysics. I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't really know much about the people behind the scenes, flight controllers. And so as I got older and, I became an engineer and then started looking at other career paths. And I kind of ended up in mission control. I just wanted any kind of job, really. I wasn't picky. Beggars can't be choosers, right? And so when I ended up in mission control, I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was so excited. So yeah, it was always there. It was just my drive from forever.
Nice.
Wow.
Minnie Stoge, who happens to be in our chat room, but normally is one of our hosts. She is our head person on Tomorrow Science, but has also highlighted on Tomorrow Space a number of times. I'm guessing what is to be a personal question. Says, Holly, do you ever remember school kids coming through mission control while you were on console, specifically for STS-131? And if the answer is no, that's okay too.
Every mission.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so they would come through for every mission. Well, I'm sorry, we would have people come through for sims. Generally during missions, they would not let people come through and just like watch behind the glass or anything.
Right.
That was all. They had security set up at every entrance, and they would check everyone's bags and everything. And so they didn't want any interruptions during the mission. So if school kids did come through, so you have to remember that there are 3 different shifts for every on mission control, in mission control for every flight. So you have orbit 1, orbit 2, and orbit 3 are the planning shift. So if school kids did come through, it may not have been on my shift. But generally, we don't have people coming through for missions, but we do have them coming through for sims.
Gotcha. Yeah, Minnie Stoach says, that's why I asked. She says, because I know that we did, and I knew that it was rare. So she was
Okay.
She didn't know if that actually like stuck out particularly, but that's interesting.
Yeah, but that would have stuck out if it had been on my shift. It would have stuck out. So if you did come by, it must not have been on my shift.
Gotcha. Nice.
Was it?
Go ahead,
If
Mike.
I can ask one more question, was there a particular shuttle mission or a particular moment that you were on shift that was extremely stressful, that was felt almost like your own personal Apollo 13 moment?
Yeah, like I talked about STS 117, when I had to go through to each other flight controller and tell me what they could turn off so that we could save fuel or cryo, so that we could stay up longer, docked to the space station to give the controllers on the ground more time to troubleshoot the problem with the Russian controllers, so that we could adjust the station's attitude in orbit if we needed to, because with those computers down, the station couldn't do it on its own.
Yeah, gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, it was funny because the chat room sort of felt silent for a minute as you're telling that story, and then you would just kind of get this "wow" comment going on. And up until that point, people were like kind of chatting away, but that was like, "Oh, wait, what did she just say?" Yeah, that's a crazy story.
I'd never heard that story before. It makes you wonder how many times the space station has been at risk like that.
That was one of the bigger ones. I would probably say the failure of the coolant pump, I think it was. That was another big one.
Yeah. Goodness. A couple of people asked this question, so I apologize if I don't name every single person who did ask the question, but multiple people want to know if you played Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, this is so embarrassing. I have tried to play Kerbal Space Program, and I can't figure it out.
Oh, no.
That's awesome. I don't think that's embarrassing. I think it's perfectly human and totally acceptable in every way. It's like that we're gonna have to. I'm sorry, guys. We're gonna have to add that to our final questions of the episode. Like, and do you play Kerbal? No, sorry, rejected.
Okay, sorry. Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you.
It looks really fun.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, I love it. That's so funny.
We need to start doing Kerbal tutorials, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I know they're out there.
You seem like you don't like that idea. You seem like that idea is quite hilarious, so I don't know.
Yeah, Sarah, do you play?
I don't.
You don't? Have you ever even tried?
No.
Yeah?
I have not.
I haven't tried either, so I figured that way I don't fail either.
Right? Exactly.
So that's good. So, Holly, I give the props to you for at least trying. At least trying.
To be fair, I gave it like an hour or so and then just quit. It's not like I spent like, a day or two on it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Points for trying. Points for trying, for sure.
Mike, do you play a lot? I guess I don't even know.
I do. I don't play as much anymore, but I used to play quite a lot. And I remember when I first started playing, it did take me like a day and a half, like 2 days just to get into orbit the first time and figure out how to play the game.
Okay.
But once you do figure it out, then yeah, for me, being a non-college educated, it helped me understand a lot of orbital mechanics stuff a lot better. But still very, very basic comparison because it's not a true representation. But
interesting.
Good enough to get you started.
Right. Well, Mind Cozy in the YouTube chat room says that so much of KSP or Kerbal Space Program is understanding the building process, but they have a new mission mode.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Try the new mission mode. Okay, thank you, Mind Cozy.
Yeah.
I might do that.
Right? That would be really, really cool. Oh, that would be cool. That's so funny. Okay, so Holly, is there anything that we didn't get to during the regular interview that like you were kind of like hoping to talk about or wanting to talk about? Or like, is there a funny story that maybe you thought we were going to get to and then we kind of didn't? Like, I know how sometimes those interviews go, you're like, oh, and I can talk about this in a second, and oh, no, we're diverging. Just kidding.
No, I think Jared did a great job. I think he really hit on everything. Everything we kind of talked about in emails and everything. So yeah, no, I don't have anything. Just whatever they want to talk about.
Perfect. Awesome. Just want to make sure.
Okay.
That's really funny. I'm sorry. I'm still like sorting through some things here.
That's fine.
Oh, Dutta, who is our director, is asking, what is your favorite Star Wars related story?
Star Wars related story. Probably the time I got to go to Skywalker Ranch was pretty awesome.
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell us that.
So a guy who used to work on the Clone Wars, he came and talked when Clone Wars was still on TV. He came and talked at NASA, and he at the end of his talk he said, I don't know if he was joking or not, but he said, if anyone at NASA ever wants a tour or anything, just, let me know. And we actually had a trip scheduled up to San Francisco a couple of months later.
Nice.
I was like,
Is
really?
that this image here?
and there we are.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And so he was really nice. He was really sweet. He was like, yeah, come on up. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
It is funny when people say stuff like that too, right? Because anytime, and then you're like, okay,
anytime,
you actually knock on the door, and
hey.
they're like,
I'm
not
actually going to
expecting-
take you up
Yeah.
on this. Yeah. When people say that,
really
I really
cool.
do say,
He's a really cool guy.
I'm going to take you up on this.
Yeah.
Just be sure that you mean it.
Right? That's amazing. That's really, really cool. It's funny. Citizen 59371 in the chat room says, well, Holly doesn't have time for KSB. She does real world engineering. Totally fair.
I know it's easier. It's almost easier, but I've had a lot of years training for that. So
that's funny. So, okay, well, here's a question that is probably very much so out of left field, so I apologize for that. I know that, JPL, for instance, has the sort of the peanuts on the...
Lucky Peanuts,
yeah. The Lucky Peanuts and that sort of thing. Is there anything that Houston Mission Control does in a similar fashion? It's not superstitious. I don't want to say that, but it's...
They call it
no,
tradition.
we would have I know for shuttle mission control, I can't speak for station.
Sure.
We would have flowers. This family would have flowers delivered during every shuttle mission, and so they would have a bouquet of flowers displayed.
wow.
I don't know if it was a good luck thing, but it was just this one family who just always they were really, really, really big supporters of NASA, and so they would always have the flowers delivered, and so they would be displayed in the flight control room.
Wow, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Stuff we're learning today. This is so good. I love this. Oh, man. Again, Ann On from our YouTube channel says, what's the strangest conversation that you've had with the International Space Station?
I have never talked to them.
Okay.
So that's just Capcom. So Capcom talks to, only Capcom talks to the astronauts when they're in space. So I've never spoken to them.
Gotcha. My understanding is it's a lot of mundane conversation for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
on Netflix.
It's all just kind of official. For us, it was, just push this button or do this step or asking questions like, what are you seeing for this, or what do you,
One more housekeeping item. We would like you to stir the tanks.
What did they?
Yeah, we don't have cryos, or for shuttle, we got rid of cryo stirs for that exact reason.
Netflix, I think it's Netflix. Gosh, now that I say that, I might be wrong. Just put out the Mercury 13 movie documentary.
Fantastic.
It is. It's really fantastic. Have you seen it yet?
Not yet.
It's really good.
Yeah, really good. It has a feel, for very obvious reasons, of a Hidden Figures kind of style. But
because that was the female applicants, right?
Yeah. Really interesting. It was one of the very, very cool. My other place of employment did sort of a ladies' night, movie night sort of situation with Mercury 13, and that was very, very cool. Nice. So I'm glad you've seen it, because I was like, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to. It's so amazing.
It's going into my queue now. I didn't know that was on Netflix for sure.
Yeah.
Some of those ladies had some really interesting careers afterwards. So worth watching, even if you're not interested in space stuff. But obviously, we're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let's see.
And the Mars Generation, if you haven't seen that on Netflix, is excellent. It's got Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye. Another great show.
Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen yet. It's in the queue. It's one of those things where Ben is traveling for work at the moment, so I can't watch some of these things without him. You know how that goes? Like I
understand. Okay. Okay.
No, I can't because I tried once. I forget what it was, but I started doing that thing where I was laughing before the joke was done, right? Or laughing before the scene was over. Or no, it was terrible. But I was just like, because I knew it was funny, so I'm like, so I'm a terrible liar. Terrible liar. Oh, Stoge, that's right. I can watch the other 27 parts of the 5-part docuseries that he said was only 1 part. That's a really good idea. Well, you know, like sometimes you get these documentaries, particularly on Netflix. Sometimes it's a documentary and it's only 1 part. It's like whatever it is, like an hour and a half. Right. And so Ben comes home one night and he's like, oh, so-and-so said that this was really good. We should watch it. It's a documentary. End statement. And so I was like, great. So we watch this thing and we get to the end of it and I was like, that was
That's a weird cliffhanger.
Like, what am I not understanding? And then it was like, next time on such and such. And I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh no, this is like a 6-part documentary. And I'm like, well, you didn't say that. He pulled the same crap on me with Lord of the Rings because I will admit, I didn't know that there were books. I didn't know there was a trilogy, and so there was this movie, and I'm very learned now, I promise. But at the time, I had no idea. And so he was like, oh, we're going to see this movie, Lord of the Rings. And I said, sure. And we got to the end of the movie, and I was like, this is the crappiest. Why did you bring me to this? This was terrible.
But it had a subtitle.
No,
Fellowship of the Ring.
Sure. Cool. I was like these guys in this ring, and they didn't do anything with it. It was awful. And you made me wait in line for this, and we went to like the midnight showing, and people were dressed up, and I was like, why do people like this crap? Like, I was so no.
You prepared yourself for an hour and a half commit. It's actually 18.
Yeah, well, I know that now. Man, I was so mad. We were walking out of that, and he was like, oh, that was so good. And I was like, what were you talking about? It was awful. So terrible. That's like a really bad joke I want to play on somebody else now, but at the same time, like, how awful is that? Oh. So dumb. Ben says he never surprises me. He still does. That's exactly how he does it, though.
He surprises everyone. I love it when he makes announcements on the screen about the show, and no one's heard it, including himself, like out loud.
Oh, so true.
Surprises us all the time. It's great.
Oh, man. Unreal.
Speaking of, this actually is something for Ben for later. If he even watches this, he probably won't.
Just say it now and then pretend that, anything you want to get done while Ben's not here, just say it. And then the whole community has heard it. And then you just be like, you edited the show. Did you not watch that part? And then it doesn't matter. It's already law.
Yeah. I noticed on this new program that we're using to do these calls with, Zoom, that it has a really good share screen feature. So I think that doing some Kerbal tutorials in studio is a very real possibility that could be done in a quality manner really soon.
Nice. See?
Something that wasn't quite. I mean, we could have possibly done it with Skype before, but it would have looked terrible. So
this is very true. Very, very true.
That could be a thing.
Oh man.
Just put that out there.
So Ikawai, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I apologize. Off of Twitch says, I came to the stream with high hopes, but she's trash-talking Lord of the Rings, and now I feel trash. I apologize. I did not necessarily mean to trash Lord of the Rings. That was not my intent here. Welcome to After Dark, by the way, where we could talk about just about anything. No, it was that the expectation was not set properly. It was the problem here. And so
basically you're trashing Ben.
Yeah, I'm trashing Ben. Lord of the Rings is amazing, and I joked every 67 hours of it. But we did eventually set up like a home viewing of like all the extended versions.
Yeah.
And I am a believer now. I apologize. I didn't mean to come off that way, but that was really fantastic. Somebody in the chat room, I apologize. I saw it, and then there we go. It's Minnie Stowe. It says, Holly, what do you think of the new Star Wars movies? especially because growing up and being so influenced by the early Star Wars movies, or the originals, or whatever, however you want to word that. How are the newer ones sitting with you?
I loved Rogue One. Yes, I adored Rogue One.
Totally.
So, I thought Rogue One was so amazing. The other ones, I'm eager to see how they close it out with Episode 9. So they've gone in an interesting direction. I'll just say that.
Sure.
I'm really, really sad about Carrie Fisher that she won't be there for Episode 9 because that was supposed to be her movie.
Yeah.
The first one was Han, and then the second one was Luke, and then the third one was supposed to be Leia. So I'm really, really upset about that. So I'm kind of not looking forward to it as much as, I guess I should be. But so they're okay. But Rogue One was absolutely the top of my list for me. And so we'll see what happens in 9.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair statement. Totally feel you on that one.
I agree, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, right?
I just wish they had Laura Dern's character.
Oh,
they
sure.
hadn't used her that way. They could, with Carrie Fisher gone, we could have had her continue on, be the strong female general.
Yeah.
They should have switched places.
Yeah. What a way to...
Yeah, well, they didn't know at the time. So.
Well, yeah. Which is really unfortunate. Because this is the area that I am most familiar with. When are you coming out to visit after Star Wars Land opens?
Well, I'm going to Orlando. I have a friend who is actually a Disney Imagineer, and he's offered to take me back behind the scenes. And so, yeah.
Ooh.
Good.
Can I come too?
I have a lot of people who are wanting to tag along.
You have a list.
I'm sure. Oh, that's funny. So many things I can't say on camera. I apologize.
I do want to bring this back to a space-related question
go
for
ahead.
a minute. Factor actually had a good question in the chat room.
Yeah.
And he asked, what is the computer storage capacity of the space station for media and data? How much is offloaded? All of it, or is any left on board? Is it only laptops, or do they have any onboard storage? Something I've
They
always
do
wanted to
have
know.
some onboard storage. I do not know the number off the top of my head. But yeah, they have some because they have the computers that, the GPCs that do control the station itself. So they have that along with the laptops. But I don't know how much storage between the laptops and then the GPCs themselves, how much it all is, because of course the laptops they could change. So I would have to look that up. I haven't worked station in about 6 years. So that's a number I have forgotten. I'm sorry.
No, that's
okay.
Totally fair.
As a follow-up question, how often do those laptops get swapped out for the GCUs? And would NASA ever consider selling them?
They would probably not sell them. And I don't know how often they get swapped out. I'm sorry. I could ask one of my station friends and get back to you, but I don't know off the top of my head. Like I said, that was 6 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah, no.
But still, how cool would that be to have one of the laptops from
laptops? They probably either
or something.
Save them for, if they don't save them for either historical or security or something purposes, then they probably just destroy them.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a cool question.
No, it's totally fair. Yeah, I think we all collectively were like, "Aw."
Oh man.
But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But that's a guess.
Here's another random question that I have for you. Is there any future modules that you would like to see installed at the space station before it retires?
Yeah, I mean, any kind of science. I'd love to see some more of the astrophysics things that they're doing. I think what are the Japanese experiments? I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but yeah, just any kind of astrophysics. I love all that stuff. So if they could do like have some kind of module that would do that, but just anything that would allow them to do more science, I think would be so cool.
Yeah. Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah, Sarah, you talked about the Cold Atom Lab.
Oh yeah, Cold Atom Lab. That's so exciting. The Bose-Einstein condensates, working with cooling, well, basically being able to interact with the quantum state of matter on a macro scale.
Yeah.
By chilling matter far enough that you can interact with it on a way that you can't at normal temperatures. And they're going to mount that on the money allowing.
Sure.
It's going to get mounted on the International Space Station. So that's one. When
are they supposed to do that if they do it?
Oh, I don't know the timeline. It kept getting shifted back. But I'm excited for if it actually happens.
Right? Yeah.
For reasons.
Sounds like a
That's
good
awesome.
movie plot.
That's amazing.
No. Cold Atom Lab. It's real. It's real. I promise. I met the project scientist.
Yeah, I was going to say, Space Vogel in the chat room says, tomorrow I had an interview with Cold Atom Lab, right? Minnie Stoge, says yes, and it was, I can't remember if it was Orbit 9 or Orbit 10. It was relatively recently, though, because it was definitely in this studio. But we had a whole show. We did an interview.
It's such exciting prospects, but funding.
Yes.
Yeah,
we all know that one. No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Biting tongue hard here.
All right. Space Vogel is asking if you have any particularly special items in your Star Wars collection, Miss Holly.
Yeah, let me stand up for a second.
Yeah.
Is it going to be the rug?
Oh, yeah.
Not the rug.
That was amazing, by the way.
So, this is my 1977.
No way.
Still in the package. Can you see it?
Yeah.
1977 Princess Leia.
I love it. And I see there's a price tag on it. What does that price say, if you don't mind me asking?
The price tag says, it's kind of scratched, $1.70 or something. Yeah, like $1 something.
I love it. That's amazing.
and then this is my 1983. Yeah, so Return of the Jedi. And then wait, let me show y'all something really cool. You'll like this. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
She has to go farther away for this one.
That's okay. That's okay. Wow, look at all that. That is really cool.
Oh, man.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. The suspense. Oh, no.
Okay, so can you see this? It's the ISS National Lab and Lucasfilm.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It's the shape of the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
That patch, yeah. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
That's an awesome patch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Explain that patch if you would.
So it's with CASIS, C-A-S-I-S. And you can actually Google it. CASIS, Lucasfilm patch. Someone at Lucasfilm, like they worked together and they got someone at Lucasfilm to design this patch because they have like a collaboration, and so they did. So they designed it for this ISS science project, CASIS, which I'm forgetting the acronym, like I said, off the top of my head. And so one of the designers, one of the artists at Lucasfilm designed the patch, and yeah,
that's really cool. According to the Googles, it is a recreation is going on Etsy for $25.
Yes.
Definitely
you can get a recreation.
Yeah. That's really epic.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to throw one more link into the chat room for those of you who are hanging out in there. I apologize, this will not go over to the YouTube chat room, so if you're hanging out over there, you're going to miss that. But yes, as Stoge was correct, it was Orbit 10.10 where we talked about the cold lab tour. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, I mean, I think I'm good. I'm starting to get hungry. I apologize. I don't mean to cut you off because I haven't had lunch or anything. But if there's anything else, Holly, did you want to add anything else to?
Nope.
No, it was a pleasure having you on. I'm so
yeah,
glad.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day and then for hanging out with us afterwards. That was very cool.
Yeah. No, this was great.
Very cool. Mike, again, thank you for hanging out. I know you usually have to kind of book out here, so that was great that you had some time. And then Miss Sarah, you didn't have much of a choice, so I appreciate you being able to be tortured by all of us.
Anytime.
Perfect.
This was fun.
We're definitely going to have you on again.
Yay.
Yeah, we're going to take you up on that.
Yes.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Kat. I appreciate that.
Exploit me.
Oh my goodness. In any case, that was Tomorrow After Dark. For those of you who are watching live, that's fantastic. And for those of you who are not watching live, maybe watch us live sometime.
Yeah, check us out.
There's a lot of fun stuff going on. In any case, we will see you guys next week. And next week we will also have a Tomorrow Space as well as Science. So that will be a very, very fun week. Probably maybe a little bit shorter after dark, but that's okay. All right, so thank you guys. Bye.
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 We need like a better close for that, don't we? Oh my goodness. And off.